Congressman Adam Smith. Welcome back, sir.
Very much.
We normally have you here to tell me why I'm wrong.
You always say that. It's possible that you might be right. That is possible.
In this case?
Yeah, well, it depends on which point you're making.
Okay.
I think, yes.
Does the president have a legitimate gripe?
Well, there is a legitimate problem with the relationship with NATO. There's no question about it. Now, who's most responsible for that is debatable. But the other way to look at how NATO's reacting to this is NATO stood with us in Afghanistan, in Iraq. They stood with us in the global war on terror. I was over there. They stood up a whole special operations command with all
first and only time Article 5's ever been used.
Right.
That was 20 years ago.
And their general take, and the general take of Donald Trump when he ran for office, was that a lot of mistakes were made in those so-called forever wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, the global war on terror. And NATO, the other NATO countries, wanted a different approach. They didn't want a war with Iran. So the problem with this argument by President Trump is he said, we're going alone in Iran. He didn't talk to NATO, didn't have anything to do with them. So to go in and then expect people to backfill. And oh, by the way, there's not really a lot that the NATO allies or anyone can do, for that matter, to reopen the Strait of Hormuz as long as Iran's regime is still standing.
So you don't buy that the U.S. can reopen it?
Not in this way. It's just too easy. I mean, all they got to do is get one shot through, and no commercial entity is going to take that chance.
Okay. So there's a few things here. You think the president, though, has a legitimate gripe with NATO. Do you agree with my assessment that one of the reasons that especially the European, old world European, UK, France, Germany, et cetera, are so reluctant to help in this is because of their own Muslim populations?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we in my district and elsewhere are really tired of 30 years of war. I mean, I think that drives the decision vastly more than how they feel about the Muslim population. And that's not really that hard to understand. Again, nobody really articulated this better than Donald Trump. The all three times.
So by that logic, wouldn't it mean that he saw a threat so great that it made it worth going to war with Iran?
See, I don't think so, because it was a year and a half ago that Donald Trump was running around the country saying, elect me president and we will not go to war with Iran. The threat from Iran is actually less at the start of this war than it was in 2024 because of what Israel did for 2 years. So that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense that Donald Trump in 2024 thought the threat wasn't.
So are we still litigating whether or not we should be at war with Iran?
Well, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, clearly. I mean,
but now that America's in the war, whether you like it or not, agree with it or not, shouldn't we fight to win?
Well, again, we had this conversation before. And what does win mean? I think what it should mean, if you're really going to accomplish something different than a tactical success, is a strategic success, which is the elimination of the Iranian regime and an entirely different Iran. Nobody, Donald Trump, not you, not anyone, has not shown me the path to getting to that. And the cost is enormous. Well, we don't have a clear way to achieve that strategic objective. We can weaken them. We've weakened them considerably. They were weakened in the 2 years before that. We can keep weakening them. But is that tactical success worth the cost that we are currently bearing?
And what is the cost that we're currently bearing?
Well, 13 dead U.S. service members.
Tragic indeed, the amount that we have inflicted on the Iranians in terms of destruction, death, their infrastructure.
I wasn't done with the cost. But certainly that's a good place to start. Over 200 wounded now, apparently. What, $2 billion a day? By the time this is done, it's going to be $50–60 billion further forward. The economy slowed down. Gas prices are now, up. Gosh, what is it, like almost $1 a gallon? The global economy is in severe jeopardy.
And what we're getting for that is pretty significant. All people, Al Jazeera understands this. Reasonable people can disagree about whether diplomatic alternatives were fully exhausted. But the critics' implicit alternative, continued restraint while Iran inched towards a nuclear weapon, is the policy that produced the crisis in the first place. Every year of strategic patience added centrifuges to the enrichment halls and kilograms to the stockpile. Are we not perhaps under-indexing for how significantly better the world is now that Iran is so much weaker?
Yeah, I read that article, and there's two major flaws in it. Number one, he says that Iran is self-defeating by shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, thinking that Iran can't get stuff out. Iran's getting stuff out.
They are right now.
We're just not getting stuff out. And second, he even makes that point in the article that it wouldn't make sense to do this without a strategic plan for the type of change that I said. Now, he said, now they kind of made a mistake not doing that up front, but they'll do that second instead of first. Absent from that is what is that plan to achieve that strategic objective?
Do you understand that there's a lot of our viewers who are watching and hearing as though ranking member on House Armed Services has tens of thousands of Americans in harm's way, and it seems as though you're not rooting for defeat, but rooting for them just to leave.
Well, no. Look, if you want to ask me what I'm rooting for the Iranian regime to go away. I'm rooting for this to be successful.
That would be a huge success, right?
But again, we've been down this road before. Hope is not a strategy. It would be. Okay, it would be a huge success.
So you don't see.
Hold on, just a second. It would be a huge success if Vladimir Putin was no longer the head of Russia and the Russians pulled out of Ukraine. It'd be a huge success. Okay, it'd be a huge success if Iran went down. But do you have a path towards getting there while you're putting service members' lives on the line? I'm not asking for us to surrender.
Right, okay? But we are far. We can all agree we are far closer today to what you call success, and what I would agree is success, than we were 2.5 weeks ago.
That is the question. I don't know if this is true. We have made...
Oh, come on.
No, hold on. We made substantial progress in terms of degrading their capability. Are we closer to a fundamental change in the Iran regime? And are we substantially closer to a fundamental change in the Iranian regime? I think that is at least debatable.
Really?
They're still there. They're still dug in.
There's
a bunch of dead people.
There's two echelons.
And there's a bunch of more people who have come along behind.
Yeah, and there's huge desertions. There's people who are now scared to man checkpoints. Their ability to project force with ballistic missiles or drones is degraded by the day.
That's true. But is the regime itself changing? Or are they just going to hunker down, survive, and rebuild? And that's what is very unclear.
But if you can identify real success, isn't that what all Americans should be rooting for?
Certainly, it is. But if the cost of that success is enormous and the likelihood of it is low, then that's not worth risking American lives.
So you are basing this, your thought is that the president and the Israelis do not have a plan for this?
They have a plan. I mean, I guess I could have a plan for owning a beach house in Maui. All right, they have a plan, they have an idea. I don't see the path. Okay, I don't see how you get to that fundamental regime change.
Wouldn't it be worth all of our friends then who would benefit from Iran no longer being able to hold the world hostage? Shouldn't they come to help us?
If you want a ground troop invasion of Iran?
No, I want the British and French to send frigates to reopen the strait.
Yes, but they're not going to be able to reopen the strait, and it's far from clear that all they're going to do is just drag themselves into the fight. I forget, France did something, I forget what it was, got dragged into the fight. They now have one dead service member and five others wounded. And has it really changed the fight? And also, if you've got allies,
I don't want to minimize any loss of life, but President Obama oversaw many service members being killed in Afghanistan, and same with Joe Biden.
George W. Bush and
so that's what happens in war.
Sure, but you want to make sure you're getting something for that, and that's what made people so angry.
And you still don't think we're getting anything in Iran?
I didn't say we weren't getting anything. I said the benefit wasn't worth the cost, because what we really want to get, again, is regime change, and what we are getting is the degrading of Iran to some degree.
And you don't think that's a worthy goal?
It's a worthy goal, but again, you've got to think about the cost. Is it worth risking the lives of so many service members? Is it worth
the alternative? Isn't the alternative, though, an Iran that is much stronger, that at some point is going to kill even more service members? They've already killed a couple thousand.
Look, I don't buy into this notion that if you have a problem, that there is that containing it is just not acceptable. You just have to go to war and eliminate.
Well, that's a perfectly legitimate thought.
That's debatable. Thank you.
Good to see you, Congressman. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.